There is a single tree that, in one good bloom, can pour out so much nectar that a strong colony gains honey by the pound per day. A tree so loaded with flowers and so heavy with nectar that beekeepers a century ago recorded colonies packing on hundreds of pounds in a single season from it. It grows fast. It grows almost anywhere in the country, and it was once planted deliberately by every farmstead and homestead that kept bees. And almost nobody plants it anymore. Here's the full story. Let me start with the scale of what this tree actually does, because the numbers sound made up until you understand them. A single mature specimen of this tree, in full bloom, can support thousands of foraging bees at once, so many that you can hear it before you reach it. Beekeepers describe standing under one and hearing the entire canopy roaring with bees working the flowers overhead. And it is not just the number of bees, it is the amount of nectar behind each one. Each individual flower can produce enough nectar to send a foraging bee back to the hive with a full honey stomach, and a single tree carries thousands upon thousands of those flowers. Multiply that across a mature tree, and you have a nectar source that dwarfs anything a flower bed can offer. Here is a comparison that reframes everything. Picture the pollinator garden people are always told to plant, a 10-foot by 10-foot patch of flowers. Now picture a mature tree. There is no contest. The tree provides many times the forage of the garden bed, from a single trunk requiring none of the annual replanting, in a footprint that also gives you shade. When it comes to feeding bees, one good tree is worth an entire field of flowers, and this particular tree is the most generous of them all. The tree is the American linden, also called basswood, and known to old beekeepers simply as the bee tree. And the history books record flows from it so heavy that early beekeepers told of colonies gaining more than 600 pounds in a single exceptional season during a strong basswood flow. 600 pounds from trees. That is the kind of number that built the reputation of this tree, and the kind we have quietly forgotten. To understand why this tree matters so much, you have to understand when it blooms, because the timing is everything. The linden blooms in late June and into July, the exact stretch of summer when the spring flow has ended and the landscape starts drying out. This is the beginning of the summer dearth, the gap that stresses colonies every year when the dandelions and fruit blossoms and clover of spring are done and the goldenrod of fall has not yet started. It is precisely the window where colonies start to lose ground, where beekeepers reach for the sugar water, where the population that built up in spring has nothing to work. And right into that gap, the linden opens. It blooms when many other nectar sources are dwindling, which is what makes it a crucial food supply at the height of pollinator season. It is not just a big nectar source. It is a big nectar source arriving at the exact moment the colony needs it most. A stand of lindens near your apiary can carry your bees straight through the dearth that would otherwise have them stalling and starving, and turn that dead stretch into one of the heaviest honey flows of the entire year. The catch, and the reason old beekeepers watched it so closely, is that the window is short. The nectar is only available for about 3 weeks. When the linden is on, it is on hard, and then it is done. Bees have to work fast, and the beekeeper has to have supers ready, because a basswood flow can fill boxes faster than almost anything else in the season. Quick word before I go on. Everything I've learned about forage trees, reading the flow, and planting to carry a colony through every gap in the season, I gathered it all into the Hive Vault over at daleshive.com. The link's in the description below and on the channel page if you want it. This video's free and always will be. The Vault's just the long version for folks who want the whole collection. I won't mention it again. Now here is the part that should genuinely bother you, because it explains why you probably do not have one of these. The linden was once planted everywhere. It is native across most of the United States. It grows easily and quickly from seed, and it thrives in almost every climate in the country. Old homesteads and farmsteads that kept bees planted them on purpose, because everyone who kept bees knew what the bee tree did. It was infrastructure. You planted a linden the way you dug a well, because it paid you back every summer for generations. And then we stopped. As small-scale beekeeping faded and as landscaping shifted toward fast, cheap, ornamental choices, the linden fell out of favor. It got a reputation in some circles as messy, it got crowded out by trees that grow faster or flower flashier or drop less. Somewhere along the way, the knowledge that this was the single most valuable tree a beekeeper could plant simply stopped being passed down. Today, most people have never heard of basswood, and the ones who have mostly do not know what it does for bees. There is one more thing that unfairly damaged its reputation, and it is worth clearing up because it may be part of why people stopped planting it. For over a century, linden trees, particularly the silver linden, were blamed for killing bees. People would find dead bees under the trees and conclude the nectar was toxic, but the science does not support that. A review of the existing research concluded there is no experimental evidence that linden nectar is toxic to bees. The dead bees found under the trees almost certainly died of starvation. Bees drawn to the tree late in its bloom after the nectar had run out, with insufficient other food sources around them in urban settings. The tree was not poisoning them. They were starving because there was nothing else planted nearby. The linden was falsely accused, and the reputation stuck anyway. So we have a native tree, easy to grow, thriving in nearly every climate, that produces one of the heaviest and most reliable honey flows there is, at the exact moment of summer when colonies need it most. And it was falsely smeared and then forgotten, and almost nobody plants it anymore. Let me tell you what you actually get if you plant one, beyond the nectar. The honey itself is a prize. Linden produces a pale, almost water-white honey with a delicate, distinctive herbal minty aroma and a light, floral taste with a hint of spice. It is a specialty honey that beekeepers and buyers have treasured for centuries, one of the world's finest white honeys. So the tree does not just give you a big flow, it gives you a big flow of a distinctive, high-value varietal you can sell as single source. Beyond the honey, the linden is genuinely useful. Its blossoms make a fragrant, calming tea used traditionally for anxiety, colds, and sleep. Its wood is soft and prized by carvers. It grows in a graceful pyramidal shape and throws excellent shade. You are not planting a single-purpose bee plant. You are planting a shade tree, a honey factory, a tea source, and a piece of old homestead infrastructure, all in one trunk. And it is easy. Lindens grow readily and quickly from seed. They are native, and they tolerate a wide range of conditions. They prefer reliably moist ground near a forest edge or water, but they adapt widely. Plant one and it establishes fast, and within a handful of years, it begins doing what the bee tree has always done. Here is how to think about actually using this. If you have lindens growing wild near your apiary already, protect them. The old rule among beekeepers is that you never cut down a bee tree. Take notice in early summer of what your bees are working. If you hear a tree roaring with them in late June, that is very likely a linden, and it is worth more to your operation standing than gone. If you are planting, plant more than one. A single tree is generous, but a small stand turns the dearth into a genuine flow. Plant the Native American linden where it suits, or the little leaf and silver lindens, which are the varieties beekeepers most often choose for their versatility and tolerance. And plant for the future the way the old homesteaders did. A linden takes years to reach full blooming size, but that is the point. You are planting a bee tree that will pour out nectar every July for the next 50 years and more. Picture your apiary with a stand of these. Late June arrives, the spring flow is over. The landscape is browning, and every other beekeeper in your area is watching their colonies stall and reaching for the sugar water. And your bees are roaring in the canopy of a tree that smells sweet from a mile away, packing away pounds of pale, fragrant, water-white honey a day, straight through the dearth that is starving everyone else's hives. You did not buy a thing. You planted a tree the old homesteaders knew about, and we forgot. The bee tree, the most generous single source of forage a beekeeper can have, easy to grow, native almost everywhere, falsely smeared and quietly abandoned. One tree feeds 100,000 bees, and almost nobody plants it anymore. Now you know what it is, so plant one. Drop a comment and tell me whether you've got basswood or linden growing near your bees, and whether you've ever caught a basswood flow. I read every single one at Dale's Hive. And if you want the full forage tree guide, what to plant and where to carry your colonies through every gap in the season, it's waiting in the vault at daleshive.com. Link in the description. Subscribe and turn on notifications because next week we're mapping out the complete forage calendar so your bees have something coming in from the first spring bloom to the last flower of fall. There's a tree that feeds 100,000 bees and nobody plants it anymore. Now you're one of the few who knows why they should.